I'm Steve Altition, Director of Client Partnerships at Pacific Cascade Legal. And today I'm here with best-selling author Shaunna Lee to discuss how to move forward from your divorce and start the process of introducing dating and love back into your life. So before we start on this, Shaunna, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here today. Let's see. How did I get started in this whole world? Well, first of all, I'm very familiar with divorce because I have been divorced 3 times. And after the third divorce, I hid in a little hole and I was very ashamed. Had lots of concerns about how the world would view me being a 3 times divorcee. And saying divorcee doesn't make it any better, by the way. It sort of makes us feel a little bit better because it sounds pretty, but no, I had a very shame-filled experience kind of coming to terms with the fact that I was divorced for a 3rd time. And through a lot of healing and kind of my own journey through, I spent 20 years in corporate America and I was very familiar with single mom life. I had done it several times before. I got to the point where I lost my 2nd job in a single year. And I was forced, it was this really kind of come to Jesus moment for me where I had to ask myself, what am I doing? Is this really the path I want to be going down? And I had always had the nudge to write a book. My entire life, I wanted to be an author. And in my healing journey, through lots of meditation, lots of journaling, I was kind of hearing the nudges, hearing the whispers to write a book. And one day it just hit me and I thought, oh my gosh, this is why I've had these 3 experiences, because I have experienced every type of divorce that exists. The hard World War III version, toxic, chaotic, all the way to the quote unquote super amicable, where it looks like everyone's getting along, and kind of everything in between. And so I took all of that experience and put it into this book, which I say is the prettiest divorce book you will ever read. It is quite beautiful, but it is really an empowering book that is your guide to how do you put your life back together? How do you put one foot in front of the other after the trauma has been induced and you're ready to take that one little tiny step? That's when you read this book, and it will show you how to properly heal. It'll kind of guide you through embracing the situation for what it is, this opportunity that you have to create a new life, to create a new identity, to really define where you're going next with intention and purpose. And so that is how I came to write the book. And then from there, you know how life just takes you from one thing to another thing to another thing. I ended up hosting a podcast, and it is quickly becoming like near and dear to my heart. It is what I will probably say later in life is my purpose in life. It is this really incredible experience where I am just talking to a bunch of people, and I am highlighting stories of people who have done just that. They've started again after loss, whether it is divorce or any other loss that life hands us. All of these people that I'm highlighting and getting to know on my podcast are just kind of embracing that, oh gosh, am I too old to do this thing? Is it too late for me to do a new thing? And so it's called Start Again with Shaunna Lee. And we just highlight stories of those start again moments. And so I have now built an entire business around starting again, all because I got divorced a 3rd time.
I like it. I like it. Then you're perfect. I also, by the way, thrive on talking with people. And so I love to talk with people who love to talk with people. And
yeah.
that's what we're just going to do. It's really interesting. One of the reasons that we were so interested in talking to you was that, lawyers moving forward after divorce, we've done 3 or 4, podcasts, live streams about it. But I mean, we're talking about changing your name and making sure you change your bank account and updating your will and all the legal stuff.
All very important.
All very important, but
Yes.
we're not talking about what you talk about so much, which is that personal emotional challenge that they're going to face, and how to move on. So let's just kind of start with that. In your book, I think you had a chapter called "You're Divorced, So What."
Well, that's the
So
title of the book. Yes.
so what? I mean, I like that. It's like, get past that. But
Yeah.
how do you start getting past that?
Well, and I've actually gotten a little heat for the title of the book because people think that I'm very flippant about divorce and that it's no big deal, or that I'm encouraging people to get divorced, which couldn't be further from the truth. Really, what the title is implied to do is to de-stigma the whole thing, right? So take the sting out of the fact that you are divorced, because one of the very first lines in the book is basically, this doesn't define you. It doesn't mean anything about you as a person because you're divorced. And so the book is really intended to be empowering and to, the first step is to put your shame aside and say, it's okay. Like, this is your current situation. It doesn't mean anything about you as a person. And I think that really is the first step.
Is there a time frame before you can start moving on? I mean, is there sort of this space you have to kind of go through? I know that a lot of people grieve, I mean, and shame comes up and all these things come up. Do you just kind of plow through those and move on, or allow time to let them kind of go away by themselves?
Yeah. So it's funny because, we've got all these cliches: time heals all wounds. And a lot of people will encourage a newly divorced person to just stay single for a long time. I'm a big proponent of everyone is different and the timeline looks different for one person to the next. But what is important, more than how long it takes you, is that you've gone through each of these steps. And so, like, one chapter in my book is about healing. Like, take the time to actually heal from the loss. Then there's a whole chapter on grieving, because grief is a whole thing and everyone processes it differently. And I think we don't really allow divorced people enough room to grieve. I think, people want them to be angry at their spouse, or they want them to, throw them back into the dating world. And I think that that's a mistake, because I think there is time that is required. The length of time is different for everybody, but I think we do need to take time to tend to our wounds, to make ourselves feel whole again, to really figure out what we want now. That is one of my favorite questions to ask, because I think far too few people actually ask them of themselves, what do you want? And the time after divorce is the perfect time for you to sit with, what do I want? Is this the career I want to be in? Is this where I want to live? Is this how I want to look? Like, there are so many aspects of who we are that we get to kind of reinvent or rediscover after divorce. And I think those are really important steps that you take before you take any big, next step in life.
It's kind of like, a new beginning. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's like, there's an end, but it end always has a beginning. And so kind of when you're ready to move on, or when you feel like, okay, I'm not going to just think negatively about everything. I'm going to actually look forward. What do you start doing? I mean, what did you even start doing? I mean, how does that go physically into something?
Well, listen, I'm pretty sure I took longer than I needed to in any one of these stages, which is one of the things I tell people. By working with me, I'm going to get you through each stage a little faster than I did for myself. I think we all have the ability to do it yourself. But I think a lot of people get stuck in any one of these steps after divorce. And so it's not about like plowing through and getting to the next thing. It's about just taking your time and being intentional, but not staying where you are, like giving yourself permission to let it be a new beginning. to see the opportunity. I mean, this is the biggest mind shift for a lot of people, is seeing that you have an opportunity in front of you instead of seeing, oh my gosh, this horrible thing happened to me. And so I think that is exactly what you said, highlighting that it is a new beginning and there is opportunity there, and you get to define what it's going to look like.
When people come in to start a divorce, one of the things that we talk about is setting goals or plans or thinking about what you want.
Yep.
At the end of the divorce, and don't limit yourself. And you kind of talk about that a little bit, don't you? About sort of
Yep.
preparing that and being careful not to limit yourself because, you're divorced.
Yes, exactly. Well, one of my chapters is called Dream Big. So it's really about giving people permission to want something more than you think is possible. Like, sky's the limit. What do you want? And I think being able to take those limits off of, it's kind of like the blinders horses wear, like you take those off and you realize, oh, wow, there's a whole world out here. I've been worried about, splitting the items in the house or where the bank accounts are going to go. But really, I could be thinking about starting a new job or writing a book or traveling the world. Like there's all sorts of possibilities that are there if you allow yourself to think about what you're wanting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How important is it to believe you can actually do it?
Oh, that's critical. Like, believing it's possible is the miracle behind the things happening. So a lot of what we talk about is limiting beliefs. So uncovering what they are. What are you believing about yourself or the world or your current situation that is limiting your potential? And when we shine a light on it, we can say, oh, wait a second, that thing actually is not true. I've been walking around believing this thing is true and it's not actually true. That's when it's like this aha moment. The light is brighter, the sun's shining brighter, the flowers smell prettier. Like when you realize, oh my gosh, I've been limiting what I thought was the potential of my life because of this belief I was holding to be true. That's when everything opens up. So I think belief is everything.
Oh, I could not agree more on that.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's get to the dating part.
Yes.
And you talk about, starting the process of introducing dating, and love back into your life. I mean, I love the term process. It's like,
Sure.
It just isn't a snap your fingers thing, probably.
No, there is a certain amount of deciding you're ready that is a snapping your fingers kind of a moment, because it's a whole vibe to get behind the idea that you can do this thing, right? And that,
Yep.
I work with women and I have a whole dating course around preparing your heart to get ready to date. And so a lot of that course is around breaking down some of these barriers that people have. Because here's the thing, anytime someone will come to you saying, this is my issue, this is my concern, this is how it's working for me, this is why dating doesn't work, XYZ, all the things, they are the only thing standing in their way of success. And it's being able to break down those barriers and what you believe to be true. It's again, the limiting beliefs concept. But when you can believe that it's possible and that you deserve to be happy and you deserve to have love again, like that's when everything changes. And so from there, then we can talk about, okay, how can you be intentional about that? What do you want in a future partner? One of the things I talk about in that course is attracting to you this perfect mate. And what I believe to be true is this whole law of attraction and this concept of like energy. You're going to attract wherever you're vibrating. And so I teach women how to raise your vibration so that you meet the match that you're looking for. So part of it is, yes, define what you want in your future partner. But the other part is, are you that person that person wants? Are you the match for who you're wanting? And so we do a lot of work around preparing ourselves and getting ourselves to the place where, one of my favorite mantras I actually took from Amanda Francis, She's amazing. She teaches on money mentality, but I applied a lot of her concepts to attracting love. And her mantra is so amazing. I tell everyone, she says, I am the catch, I am the prize, I am the whole damn vibe. And I'm like, when women are approaching dating, that's what you need to get behind. Like, you're the catch, you're the prize, you are the vibe. And so that really, it changes the whole perspective. It's not, I'm looking for a needle in a haystack at that point. It's, oh, wait, I'm just going to meet a bunch of people and I'm going to see who I'm vibing with. And it makes it a whole lot easier and smoother of a process.
Does kids co-parenting, that whole kind of thing, interfere with, not interfere with, help? I mean, how does that fit if you've got a couple kids and you're doing co-parenting with your ex and now you're wanting to date and move forward?
Well, I will say kids complicate everything.
Oh yeah. And they
in
never
the best possible ways. Yeah, I think when kids are in the mix, it is more complicated. You have to consider them in how you are approaching dating. And people do it all various different ways. I don't know if there's a right or a wrong. I certainly think I know what's right or wrong. But I think, yes, kids are a factor for sure. And that's one of the things when we're talking about, what do you want in a future partner? Be honest about whether you or not you want that partner to have children, and know what that brings to the table if they do and if you do. I think it's definitely a factor that has to be considered. And co-parenting is a whole thing. I have another course on co-parenting because so many people struggle in this area. Like, you ended up divorced because you had issues with this person. And so now you're supposed to be working together in this amicable way for the, good of your children. And so I teach people how to do that better. Because co-parenting is a whole thing.
Oh yeah. And a lot of the sort of challenges and tools and ways to do it are similar to what we've already talked about. I mean, the whole limiting belief, getting past shame, all of that stuff, putting away your anger and your negativity. It's you're dating one person and you're sort of dating your kids because you're co-parenting. It's just interesting.
Yeah. Oh, it's a juggling act for sure. And I think for me, when I am intentional about the way that I am moving forward in life, that means I'm co-parenting better. And listen, I'm not perfect. I'm human like the rest of us. So I have my moments. But when I can keep my kids front and center as the priority, I show up better. And when I am making that working relationship a priority, then it puts me in a better headspace to move forward and meet a new person, or, how I interact with the rest of the world gets a little easier when that one working relationship is smoother. So it's all interconnected.
Oh my gosh, I agree. You also in your book talk about the tools you use to succeed. And again, it's fascinating, the intentionality of the approach. It's like, okay, this is what I want, this is what I'm going to do, this is where I'm going to go. And now I'm going to use some actual nuts and bolts tools to do it. And I know journaling is one and meditation is one that you talk about. Could you kind of go through a little bit of, how those tools work? Or
twist my arm to talk about meditation and journaling one more time. I would say those are the two things that have truly changed my life. If I were to give it kind of a quick summary, both of them allow you to be intentional. And I would say that probably is the theme in everything that I'm teaching, everything that I'm sharing. It all comes back to intentional. Be intentional with where you're going, what you want. But meditation lets you practice that. Journaling lets you work through a lot of things and practice. So those tools, I think, are a good way to work through difficult emotions, uncover limiting beliefs, be able to practice what you want to feel like in any given situation. So specifically meditating and spending time thinking through how you want this next interaction to go. How do you want the first date with this person to go? How do you want your next conversation with your ex to go? Being able to sit in meditation and kind of practice what that looks like and what it feels like in the way that you want it to go is setting intentions. And then journaling, one of my favorite. So two big things about journaling. My first is practicing gratitude. And the second is practicing kind of future situations. So that example I just gave with meditation, you can do with journaling as well. And you can kind of write through, I'm so grateful for this experience, and talk about this scenario that you want to have happen as if it's already happened, as if it is your current day, present reality. I've met this man. He is so amazing. He makes me feel this. I'm so in love. Like being able to write through how it will feel to have this person in your life. And the same goes for conversations with your ex, like difficult conversation. Like how many of us have lost sleep over a potential conversation? Like I find it's more helpful to think through how you want it to go and practice that. And so journaling lets you do that. But then my other thing about journaling that I love to tell everybody about is this kind of framework for gratitude journaling. And this is where this little tiny framework can give you the ability to start small and create a daily habit. So I think that on the days that I have meditated and I've journaled, things go smoother. I show up as my better self. So I know how beneficial it is to me. And gratitude journaling was a really good practical way for me to put it into practice. And so it's 3 steps. It's the first one is 3 to 5 things that you are grateful for. The next is something that you are proud of. And the next is something you're looking forward to. And so it's all about future gratitude, but we are not conditioned to be grateful in this society. We're conditioned to look for problems and solve problems and what is missing and what is wrong. And so gratitude takes practice. And so that's where I think journaling is a really good way to help us kind of practice this gratitude mindset that has to be cultivated and built over time.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I one of the things I think it also does, because you're writing stuff down. And when you write stuff down, you think of more stuff. I mean, stuff that you maybe haven't thought of for years. I mean, it's really good for like getting your brain to start, flashing again on the old synapses that haven't been used forever.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I think it's one of the concepts or one of the tactics for journaling that I've heard is this whole stream of consciousness, where you can kind of ask God, angels, universe, a question, and then just start writing. And this stream of consciousness is really kind of you tapping into the divine and getting the answers that you're looking for. But if you just free flow write it out, it is amazing what comes up from that. It can be stuff from the past. It can be aha moments for how you can change your perspective. It's really amazing what putting pen to paper can do.
Oh, I love it. I could not agree more. So now I love another thing you talk about where you've moved from divorce and on to dating. And now it's time to move along from searching for love to being in love. What does that mean?
Yes. Well, so one of the things I talk about in this dating course I have, and I'm writing a book about dating that is on the horizon. But one of the things I talk about is your daily practice. So I give homework each week in this course. And one of the things is to go be in love. Go be in love for the week. You haven't met the person yet, but I want you to walk around as if you are in love with this person. And what happens is kind of miraculous, because all of a sudden you're in love with the way your children are interacting. You're in love with this thing you saw on TV. You fall in love with your life. And I think that state of being is what then attracts love to you. And so it's a very intentional practice that I'm recommending. But then fast forward, you meet the person, you do fall in love. And then reality sits in. And so I have a whole chapter on self-sabotage because there's this concept of a happiness threshold, an upper limit, where we are all comfortable with being like this happy. But if I get to this happy, then I'm going to self-sabotage and bring myself back down to this comfort zone. And I was trying to remember the name of the book and the author. I think it's called The Upper Limit. No, it's called The Big Leap. And I don't remember the author's name, but go find it. It's got a fish on the cover. It is an amazing book all about this concept of us self-sabotaging to keep us in this comfort zone. And really the miraculous thing we can do for ourselves is when we bust out of that upper limit and get comfortable there and really expand what our comfort zone is for happiness threshold. Because all of this to tie back to dating, when you're in that first relationship after you've been divorced, after you've done the healing, you've done all the things and you've met the person, that's when old patterns start to pop up. And that's when self-sabotage starts to, can I really be this happy? Can he really be this great? And so it's a little bit of an uncomfortable scenario that you kind of have to push through so that you can allow yourself to get to that really great place that you've been wanting to be.
I love it. You quoted an author. I hear you, and all I could think of, what comes to my brain, of course, is the Rolling Stones song. You can't always get what you want, but you find sometimes you get what you need.
Yes.
So I love that. We're getting close to the end. So before we do, I wanted to do a couple things. First, I want to have you let people know how they can get a hold of you if they would like to, and I'm sure some people are definitely going to want to do that. And so just what is the ways that they can get a hold of you?
So I am simply Shaunna Lee on all of the socials. I love to play on Instagram the most. Shaunna spelled Shaunna, because my parents wanted to be different. My website is where they can go find out all sorts of information about my courses, my books. I've got a lot of free downloads over there, and that's ShaunnaLee.com.
I love it. We have a couple minutes, so I'm going to ask you one more question. I'm going to say, if you have a couple minutes, then
I do.
What would your piece of advice, what would one piece of advice you would give to someone who's calling you and saying, it's not going right, I don't know what to do?
What would be my first advice? I would say, first of all, it's going to be okay. Just take a breath. And I think one of the best things we can do for ourselves is to stop retelling the story of what's gone wrong, to stop spinning our focus and our energy on how it didn't go right or what is missing. I think the minute we can stop that momentum, because I think energy is this momentum, it builds like a snowball running down a mountain, right? So stop the train in its tracks and then say, okay, what do I want? And if you spend more time and energy focused on what you want rather than what is wrong or what is missing or what you don't want, that's when things start shifting.
I love it. I love it. You gave a physics answer to the question, which makes me feel so good. Time and energy are work, and momentum is energy. So I love that.
True.
Thank you so much for being here today, Shaunna. This was really cool. Sitting down, talking about dating, getting back into dating, and kind of reintroducing yourself after divorce to love again. I just thought it was great. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a super fun conversation.
Oh, it was. And thank you you made it super fun.
Oh, thanks.
So everyone else, thank you as well for joining us today. If anyone has further questions on today's topic, you can definitely post it here and we can get you connected with Shaunna. And until next time, again, stay safe, stay happy, and